What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Mystery Ranch, built for the mission. And if you guys aren't rocking a Mystery Ranch Fireline pack, well, you're doing it wrong. And your back probably sucks. It probably hurts right now. But they make, other than the most bitchin', most durable, most comfortable Fireline packs in the game, they make a ton of other load-bearing essentials. But not only that, they give back to the community. So check this out. They have started the Mystery Ranch Backbone series. And what that is not only just telling the story of the boots on the ground with the Backbone series, but they also started the Backbone series scholarship. And it is an opportunity for you, yes, you, to win one of these $1,000 Mystery Ranch Backbone scholarships. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So if you got an epic story to tell and you want to contribute to the betterment of the wildland fire community, well, go over to www.mysteryranch.com and check out the Backbone series. And while you're at it, check out all the packs. And while you're at it, go check out Robert LeBonc's new book called Moondust. It's basically a photojournalism project documenting the events that happened on the August complex, and it is pretty badass. So once again, go over there, check it out, www.mysteryranch.com, and support the cause. The Anchor Point Podcast is also going to be brought to you by our premier coffee sponsor, and that is none other than Hotshot Brewery. It's kick-ass coffee for a kick-ass cause, and a portion of the proceeds will always go back to our homies over there at the Wildland Firefighter Foundation, and they've been doing a hell of a lot of work, especially this year and every year. That's the foundation that obviously takes care of us. So if you want to support the cause, a little bit indirect, I guess you could say, well, go over to hotshotbrewing.com and pick up some stuff. They've got all of your Wildland Firefighter themed apparel. They have kick-ass coffee for kick-ass cause, and they have all the tools of the trade to get your morning started off right. But not only that, they help support the Anchor Point Podcast by slinging some of our merch. So I'm just going to do full disclaimer here. They hold on to our staples, if you will, our flagship models of merch. So if you want them anytime, as long as they are in stock, go over to www.hotshotbrewing.com and pick yourself up some. The Anchor Point Podcast would like to give a quick little shout out to our buddy Booze over at the Ass Movement. And if you guys don't know what the Ass Movement stands for, well, that is the anti-surface shitting movement. And yeah, it is a serious problem, and it's nothing I find more disgusting than coming along the trail and going to my favorite fly fishing place and seeing a human turd gift wrapped in toilet paper. That shit needs to stop, and it's disgusting. So if you have a problem pooper on the crew or want to help spread the poo-burying propaganda, go over to www.thefirewild.com and check out the Ass Movement for all your poo-burying propaganda needs. And last but not least, the Anchor Point Podcast is going to be brought to you by the Smoky Generation, also known as the American Wildfire Experience. And if you guys don't know what that is, well, it is a digital archive, a digital storytelling platform of wildland firefighting stories dating all the way back to the 1940s. There's a collection of over 100 of them, and it's pretty cool. So if you want a little trip down memory lane, or if you want to get some stories from your peers in the field, by all means, go over to www.wildfireexperience.org and check it out. Not only that, they also do the Smoky Generation Wildfire Experience grants. And you guys and girls out there who are telling the story of wildland fire across the globe now, which is pretty awesome, have an opportunity to win one of these $500 Smoky Generation grants for telling your story in the field and helping support the cause. I believe that 2021 is closed at this point, but there's always next year. There's been a ton of winners, and each one has a very unique story and flavor to add to the wildland fire telling story. It's pretty awesome. Bethany, you have a kick-ass organization over there. Keep it up, and hopefully I'll be hearing from you soon here on the podcast. So once again, thank you. The views and opinions of this podcast do not reflect the views and opinions of the United States government, the Department of the Interior, the Department of Defense, the Department of Agriculture, the United States Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or any private, municipal, county, or state firefighting organization, any law enforcement agency, any medical provider, or any contractor employed by any federal agency. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. Hope everybody's doing well. And wow, we've had some pretty impressive fire behavior, both up in the Klamath and on the Beckworth complex. Yeah, that Beckworth complex is spitting out tornadoes, apparently. Well, at least very, very powerful fire whirls. But yeah, hope everybody's doing well, and I hope everybody's being safe. Keep your head on a swivel, especially on that escarpment. It's one of those more low-key, super dangerous places to fight fire, and not a lot of people know about it. So keep your head on a swivel and stay safe out there. That being said, today on the show, I've got a little bit of incident command knowledge being dropped, and who better to have it than my buddy Chris. Chris is he's a former El Cariso Hotshot, and now he is a BC for Pechanga Fire Department. But more importantly, he is one of the planning section chiefs for CalFire Incident Management Team 4. So today we are going to learn and expand on what exactly plans chiefs do. It's pretty cool. There's a couple of parts where we kind of got off topic, but that's a premise of the show. And this wouldn't be the Anchor Point podcast without going down a couple of rabbit holes. So with that being said, hope everybody enjoys the show. And I'd like to introduce my good friend, Chris Burch. Welcome to the Anchor Point. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Anchor Point Podcast. Today on the show, I've got my good friend, Chris Burch. He's a firefighter in SoCal, and he's also assigned to a CalFire Incident Management Team. What's going on, Chris? How you doing, man?
Brandon, it's great to be on the show, man. I've been a big fan for a few years, and I consider it an honor to be on here and kind of give my perspective from being an employee of a tribal fire department, assigned to a CalFire Incident Management Team, and kind of, maybe we can take care of some of the, questions or the mysteries of tribal fire and CalFire teams. Because I know you kind of open up to everything. Like there's nothing off limits with the podcast. So
oh yeah, man.
Hopefully I can bring some light to from my perspective. And again, I know you have the disclaimer at the beginning, but I just want to say these are my words. This is from my perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of my department or on the behalf of CalFire, but just from my perspective, yeah.
Oh, for sure, man. And yeah, it's like you said, man, this whole podcast, it doesn't matter if you're a contractor, insurance adjuster, CalFire, Fed, it's open to everybody out there. I know I kind of specialize in the Fed kind of thing just because it's my experience and that's what I know. Right. So, yeah. But yeah, man, tell me about yourself. Like, how'd you get into fire and everything?
Well, it's funny. The girl I was dating when I was in high school, her dad said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, yeah. And so he said, "Hey, I know a bunch of firefighters. They get a lot of time off. They make decent money, spend time with family." And so I want to say the very next week, I went down to the local fire station and dropped an application off to be a volunteer. And that was in 92 when I did that. It's when I graduated from high school. And caught on with the local volunteer fire station, which was a CalFire station in Southwest Riverside County in California, Southern California. And I was immediately hooked on just the station life, the culture, the camaraderie, the brotherhood.
Got the fire bug.
So, yeah, the working out, the adrenaline rush of going on fires. And it just was, to be honest with you, I can't believe we get paid to do what we do. It's just an amazing job. And that I steal a line from Let Me Be Fury, like best damn job I ever had. So it is. But in the early 90s, it was kind of difficult to get a full-time job or even a seasonal job in the fire service. It's just a super competitive industry. And there was a bunch of us that would test. And about 3 years of testing, I finally got hooked on or caught on with the Forest Service, Cleveland National Forest. And shout out to Mike Wachowski. He was a fire captain at the time. He called me up and said, "Hey," actually, he didn't call me up. He paged me because back then you had pagers.
Yeah, the pager.
Yeah. And so, you would carry an extra quarter in your pocket. So if you got that page, you go to a payphone and you call up whoever it was that paged you. And funny story about this, I was, as a volunteer, I would always call in sick to work because I wanted to go to the fire station. I want to work at Big Five or Home Depot or.
Yeah, you didn't want to have a day job.
Yeah, that's the shitty part about having a job is you got responsibilities and you have to somewhat be an adult. But I was working at a restaurant as a busboy, and I'd called in sick a couple days because there was a fire, and I'm like, I'd rather go. I don't want to be a busboy. I want to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
And so the manager calls me in the office. I came into work, and he's like, dude, we rely on you. Put you on the schedule. We rely on you. You have to come into work. And he's like, this is the last time I have to have this conversation with you again. You're gonna be written up. I'm like, okay, thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. I got a page. It was the fire station phone number. So I'm at work. I just walked out of the manager's office. I called the station. It was Mike Wachowski. He at the time he was a captain. He then promoted to BC, then DC, retired from Forest Service because of the 57-year thing. And now he works for San Bernardino County Fire. Super good guy. Called him up. He's like, hey, you want a job on the Cleveland this year? I'm like, yes, sir. He's all, when can you come down to the fire station and fill out the paperwork? And I said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. So I thought you were at work. I said, I'm going to go quit. Walked back into the manager's office and said, hey, I just got a fire job. I'm out of here. He's like, you can't fucking do that. Weird. I said, hey, I do not want to be a busboy, dude. I want to be a fireman. So kind of went out.
Did you give him the fingers when you're walking out the door?
Pretty much. Walked around, high-fived all the servers and the bussers, and I had made it. I made it. So that was pretty cool. I did that for 3 years. The cool thing is that I had a couple of buddies that worked on the hotshot crew. And so that was my sole focus, was to get on the crew, because that's where the best of the best was, on the hotshot crew. I worked, I think, every single day that I could. There's 8 fire stations on the district at that time. I worked every single fire station, and my sole focus was to outwork, out PT, out hustle every single person that I worked with.
Got to earn it,
so
man.
I had the drive, the desire. So about a month or so into it, I got a call up to go to a fire in Utah with the crew. And I want to say it was called the Corn Fire, but I'm not sure. Dude, I was just, I was on cloud 9, and I was 22 years old at the time. So just young and dumb and, chock full of energy. And I remember we get out of the line, and I want to say I was second Pulaski. And so I'm like, I gotta show these folks that I deserve to be up here. They did not make a bad choice with me. And so I'm just cutting line and cutting, and I'm digging. Well, I'm second Pulaski. There's probably, I'm going to guess, 8 or 9 other people behind me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm digging complete line by myself, because usually it's a 6-foot cut, 2-foot scrape. And thankfully the fire activity picked up in front. Captain said, hey, let's bump back to the safety zone for a little bit, let the fire burn down. And so I get back to the safety zone, and I immediately puked, because I'd just been working my ass off for 15, 20 minutes. And my buddy's like, dude, you can't go that hard. Like, we're going to do this for another 12 hours. Like, you got to slow down a little bit, Mark.
And then there's the day after, and the day after, and the day after that.
Yep. I mean, we did everything. We burned on that fire. We spiked on that fire. We coyoted on that fire. I mean, it was fucking awesome. I was like, this is where I need to be.
Just pumped.
So we get done with that fire, and what's that?
You're just pumped about it.
Oh my God. It was, I'm 22. I don't know any better. And I'm getting paid to do this. I'm hanging out. I'm camping. I'm getting paid to camp right now. This is amazing. And so anyways, we get back from that fire, get back to the district, and go back to my lame engine crew. And that engine crew wasn't lame, but just working on the fire engine was lame, because I'm a hotshot now in my mind.
Yeah.
And fortunately, a couple of weeks later, a couple of guys had to cycle off because of whatever reason. So they called me back up there with a couple other buddies for the next, and I did that for the next 3 seasons. So
nice.
To this day, those 3 fire seasons on that hand crew, best of my career. Best 3 seasons of my career to this day. Still have a couple of really good buddies to keep in touch with, and still kind of live locally from the crew. And that's what, 25 years ago?
I'm no math professor, dude.
I'm not good at math either. That's what I'm asking you.
I became a firefighter for a reason.
And so from then, in 1999, I got hired at Pechanga. And I've been there for the last 22 years working at Pechanga Fire, which is just outside of Temecula. It's kind of on the border of San Diego and Riverside County. We're in Riverside County, but really close to the county line there. Been there for 22 years. Got hired as an engineer, promoted to captain, and then I just promoted to battalion chief in the end of January, I believe. So that's my new gig now for the last 5 months. But in that meantime, went to paramedic school. So still a licensed paramedic, even though I haven't touched a patient in probably 6 or 7 months now. But I like that paramedic stipend, so I'm going to keep that license because it's a little bit extra money, Let's see, taught EMT for a few years at a local EMT program. Primarily to do that just was to kind of the way this is. I'm going to say to touch the next generation, but I don't mean it in the way that you're thinking, Brandon. Touching the next generation. It was actually
careful with your words there.
I know. These are my words again. But no, just kind of, I had a lot of mentors, coming up, and I wanted to provide some direction to the next generation of folks that are coming up, whether they just want to be EMS or they want to be fire, police officers, whatever it is, just to kind of give them a little bit direction. Because I did have some really good mentors growing up, and I'm kind of just, I guess I'm at the stage of my career where I can kind of pay it forward, and repay the favors that I was given when I was coming up. So taught EMT, the whole paramedic thing. Incident management teams. I got assigned to an incident management team in 2007 with CalFire. I don't work for CalFire, but CalFire is a really good, I guess, mutual aid, cooperation, collaboration program where they, at the time there was 10 teams when I got initially assigned. But because of the number of positions they have assigned to the teams, they couldn't fill them all with CalFire folks. So they reach out to local government and contract counties to fill some of those positions. So 2007, I was assigned to CalFire Incident Command Team back in the day, Command Team 6 as a resource unit leader. And then in 2013, they reconfigured from 10 teams to 6 teams, and I was reassigned to CalFire Incident Management Team 4 as a resource unit leader. And then from then, I've worked my way up to the position I'm in now, which is plant section chief on Team 4. I kind of liken the management teams. The management teams are staffed with the doers of their respective departments. So it's the people that I'm sure it doesn't matter what agency or whoever, where you work for, Walmart or Del Taco or, fire department. There's usually a small percentage of folks that do the bulk of the work. And I think that's what the management teams are comprised of, is that those people that just come to work and they're just workers. They're just horses. You just give them assignments and they just go knock them out.
Yeah. It's like the hitters of the group.
Yeah.
And it's not like to take anything off of you're talking specifically with the incident management, environment. That's what you're talking about. Because we both know that a majority of the work that goes into fighting fire is actual boots on the ground. But there's there's a lot of shit that goes on behind the scenes, especially from an IMT perspective.
Yes. That's an interesting point too, because a lot of people look at the teams. It doesn't matter if it's a Fed team, a state team, a local government team. You guys are just doing office work. If you've never worked in that capacity, it's really, really hard to understand how much time and effort goes into that. And trust me, most of us would much rather be on a fire engine or on a hand crew out there doing the actual, boots on the ground work. But somebody has to do the management team stuff. And at some point in your career, if you want to extend your career and still be a part of the program, it would behoove you to go take some classes, get some ICS qualifications. But then, once you do it, you're like, God damn, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. But if you've never done it, it's hard to understand. And so, for an example, the longest drive I've had to make to an incident, it was 2018. I think we're down in San Diego for 4th of July. Get the call. My team had coverage that week. Get the call that we are getting activated to a fire up on the Klamath. So I drove almost from the California Mexican line, the county line, the country border, I guess.
Yeah.
All the way up to Wairika, which I think is the last major town before you hit Oregon, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to say so. And like, what was that? Not Siskiyou County.
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it Siskiyou County? Because that's like right on the border of Oregon, and then you have to go over Siskiyou Summit, and next stop is Ashland.
But Ashland's in Oregon, correct?
Yeah, Ashland's in Oregon.
And so the ICP was at the fairgrounds there in Wairika. I don't remember the name of the fairgrounds. But anyways, I think I left at 8:30 at night or 9 o'clock at night. I got into Wairika at 8:30 the next morning.
Oof.
Just to do the in brief. And then you got to go to work. Like, there is no down. You're like, okay, I'm going to go get a couple hours of shut-eye. No, you've got to go to work. So usually the first couple of days are by far the hardest push. Doesn't matter what section you're in, ops section, log section, whatever. The longest I've been up straight was 62 hours.
Were you hallucinating?
Oh, bro, it was probably, if I could equate it to beers, it was probably like 10 beers, 10 beers deep.
You know what's funny, man, is Randy Brooks. He was one of my first guests on the podcast. He actually is still conducting the study on sleep deprivation and the effects that it has on our first responders, particularly federal wildland firefighters. But he says that pretty much every 4-hour increment over 24 hours, I'm sure he's going to correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm quoting him wrong, but every like 4 hours over staying up for more than 24 hours equates to another beer. Like if you're up for just 24 hours straight, you're already at a 0.1 or something like that. You're like well above the legal limit, like mentally.
I do not doubt that at all.
Yeah.
That long stretch that I did, it was here for a local incident. To be honest with you, it's just terrible to say. I don't remember how I got home because I actually lived close enough where after my thing, I want to say it was a 25-minute drive from the ICP to my house. I don't remember getting home. I remember my kids being there going, "Oh, Dad," because my kids were young at the time. I think I got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and I got to go back to work. So yeah, it's no different than if you cruise all night to a fire on part of a hotshot crew or a strike team of engines. They consider you fresh because you weren't assigned to the fire line, but you've been driving all night long to get to the fire.
Oh yeah.
We're putting you on the plan, your day plan, you're going to work.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, is like you and I know that's both of us know that's bullshit.
But you think about, they're there to relieve the guys that have been working all day and all night from the day before. So everybody's going to get a bite of the shit sandwich for the first couple operational periods.
Oh, yeah. You know? I mean, you can only do what you can with what you've got.
Yeah. Yep. But so the teams have been really good. Obviously I'd still prefer to go out and be a chopper and a squirter, but that's not my lot in life now.
Yeah.
So let's see. So the team stuff, the transition from a fire captain to a battalion chief, I'm still kind of making that adjustment right now. Obviously my job now is primarily administrative versus going out and training with the guys, working out with the guys. That's the stuff that's the biggest piece that I'm missing so far. Like personally, go to work. The guys still treat me great and I still eat with them and hang out with them, but not training, not PTing with the guys. That's the part that I'm
kind of digs at you.
Getting. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing though, is like circling back to that conversation we just had, is you can't stay operational your entire fire career. You're just going to either break yourself off or you're not going to progress. With operations, typically you'll reach a point where you can't progress any further. And you brought up a good point to say, get trained in ops or planning or not ops. You can do ops, but the higher level ops stuff, or even finance or anything. There's a lot of things that go into fire, man, that people don't really realize because they want to stay operational their entire fire career.
Yeah. And the wear and tear of being a wildland firefighter, obviously when we're young, we're in great shape. Nothing's broken, for the most part. Knees are good, backs are good, shoulders are good. But eventually that's going to wear you down. And the superintendent of my crew, he'd been on a hotshot crew So I got on the crew in 96. He became, he was a soup of that crew in 89 or 90, but he came from a hotshot crew from Montana prior to that. And he just retired, I want to say in 2015. So he almost his entire career was assigned to a hotshot crew. And when I worked with him, his back was bad. And that was, 20 years before. So we did another 20 years after I worked with the guy. If you want to extend your career, work towards that pension or a lifetime medical or whatever it is that your department offers you, go get some ICS quals and get out there and do some, even if you start as a field observer or a line EMT or something like that, get some quals. And you're just building the foundation to get yourself, higher up in that management position where eventually the wear and tear is not going to be on your body. It's going to be on your mind. But
yeah. Well, it's the thing, man. I'm pretty sure that everybody out there, if they have kids and a family, they want to be able to, throw their kid up in the air when they're 2 years old and not be physically disabled to where they can't do that or enjoy the shit that they want to enjoy when they're retired because they're broken.
And I think that's a part of the mentoring aspect that sometimes we need to do a better job of telling the young people is that, hey, it's all great right now. Right on the fire engine, working on a hand crew, you're out there doing the hero stuff, but consider the benefits, consider the quality of life after if you intend to make this a career, how do you want to be physically when you're done? You're talking about playing with the grandkids or playing with whatever it is, playing golf, getting out of bed sometimes.
Oh yeah.
You got to think about those things because like you said, you cannot be operational the entire career. And if you want to have a long career, at least the majority of us can't.
Yeah.
So,
well, ops isn't the end all be all. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of satellite positions that are loosely or directly attached to the operations aspect of fire.
Yeah, for sure. And in the team environment, everybody works together. Every single day we have a command and general staff meeting just to kind of do a pulse check of everybody. How's everybody doing? How are your folks doing? Do you need to cycle anybody out? Do you need to order more folks? Whatever it is. But it is truly, at least when you say incident management team, for the team that I'm assigned to, it's almost like a boundary job. Like we don't work in our individual silos of whether it's operations or it's plans or finance. One of our team mottos one of the questions is, who is the most important member of the team? And a lot of people say, oh, it's the IC or it's operations. And the real answer is whoever needs the help at that given time. So it could be, a line EMT that's assigned to logistics. They're the
This meeting is being recorded.
The heck just happened?
I don't know, but I clicked got it.
Sorry, I don't know what just happened. I think so. Apologies to everybody that's trying to watch this on YouTube because I'm pretty sure it didn't record that first 30 minutes.
Oh, do we have to go do this all over again now?
Nah, we're good. First, send it. We're going live. It happens, man. I hit the record button and then it stopped and then I was like, crap.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
No
sorry
worries.
about that. Apologies, everybody. Anyways, dude, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No. So it is the most important person on the team is whoever needs the most help at that given time.
Yeah.
And so what I really love about my team is that, finance will come over and ask plants, hey, are you guys doing okay? Do you guys need anything? Because everybody's kind of cross-trained a little bit. And a lot, we're all firefighters. We're not rocket scientists. I mean, you don't have to have a 4-year degree to be successful in this. Well, I take that back. Was it McClintock that said that
unskilled
that
laborers
fire is that it's unskilled labor?
Oh man,
not
that pissed off a lot of people.
We're rocket scientists, but we do have to be somewhat sharp to do this job successfully and safely. So
to say that it's unskilled is a complete and utter disrespect to the men and women that have lost their lives doing this job.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I cannot believe that it's someone that, and I want to say his area is a pretty fire prone area, isn't it?
He represents the Stanislaus National Forest. So yeah, it's a very fire prone area. So to say that is, oh my God, man, it blows my mind. And like we're saying here, you have to be a tactical athlete. You have to be a mechanic. You have to be, all these other things. It's like, what do you mean unskilled?
Yeah, that's a pretty unintelligent, unempathetic, uneducated thing to say. I cannot believe that he went there, but
yeah, pissed off.
I'm pretty sure he's not going to come on the podcast and try to apologize or explain what it is that he was trying to say.
You know, if McClintock is listening to this podcast, which I doubt he is, I'd love to have the opportunity to interview him and try and explain what we do to him. And also, I want to see if he can clarify his points of view to maybe walk back some of those statements, because I'm sure there's more behind that discussion, because we only see certain points of whatever the reporter is saying, right? There's probably a bigger picture behind that, but I want to make sure. Trust but verify, right?
Yeah, that's the whole fact find thing. Like, there's multiple sides to every story. So yeah, I guess before we crucify him too much, we should probably give him an opportunity to speak his piece.
Yeah.
It still looked like shit in writing though.
People are pissed, man. Yeah. And I that's the thing that always blows my mind too, is like, he said that directly about wildland firefighters specifically, but he's not taking into the account that, you know, municipal departments do this, like yourself. You got CalFire, you got state agencies that are all risk that are doing this, that also have those wildland firefighting duties. It is not unskilled labor. It is highly technical and very complex, man. Trying to plan line for, you know, catching a fire, or the inherent danger behind it. I mean, for fuck's sake, there was a tornado on a fire right down the street from me yesterday, actually. And yeah, it's these men and women risk their lives, and the primary workforce, the majority of them are federal workforce. They make $13.45 an hour. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, I think what Biden was saying, that he wanted to temporarily boost it to $15 an hour, which is, at least it's a step in the right direction.
It is.
It's a temporary fix to a long-standing issue that the feds have been dealing with for a very long time.
Well, you said it yourself, man. It's even the hiring, man. Like, when you first started on the Hotshot crew, you said the competition was pretty gnarly. But now with inflation and all these other things, especially the cost of living in California, holy crap, man, you can't survive on a federal forestry technician wage at a GS3 through even a 9. It's impossible, man. You can't have a quality of life.
And not to take anything away from, you know, somebody that works at Starbucks or at Walmart or whatever, because, you know, I'm sure their job is hard in some capacity as well. But
yeah,
there's 99% of the time when they go to work, they have no fear of not being able to make it home from that job. You go out on a fire, there is a chance. I mean, it's, if you keep your head on a swivel and you do what you're supposed to be doing, the chances are good you're going to go back home as well. There's also a chance that there's some stuff that you just can't plan for, you know, snag falling or somebody crossing over into your lane. I mean, it's just, there's too much inherent risk in what we do to justify paying somebody, you know, less than what they earn or less than what they deserve. Because what the feds are paying right now it's an atrocity. It's terrible. And they need to do a better job.
They do, man. And that's the thing. At least we got like grassroots going on behind the scenes, and we're in direct contact with some of these legislators that are proposing, and we're, you know, in some drafts legislation right now, and we're working with these folks to introduce bills to Congress and the House of Representatives. But, you know, I think the important takeaway behind Biden's speech is that he's willing to work with these folks and trying to expand not only the workforce, but the benefits that the feds are offered, man, because they're not subjected to presumptive health care after the end of their career. And then what, you got until 65 before, I don't know, 50% of the workforce either dies of a heart attack or, you know, develops some sort of cancer or some shit like that, like 5 years after they retire. It's like, come on, man. It's like these people they've earned their place.
Yeah.
They've earned the right to get these benefits. So just do it. Do what right looks like, man. Yeah,
I agree 100%. 100%. Well, what questions have you heard, or I guess what mysteries are there about CalFire teams or CalFire incidents. I know hotels are always the hot buttons topic.
You guys just have a good union, and that's the end of the day. It's, I mean, the hotels, it is what it is, but you guys work 24 on, 24 off typically, and you have a strong union representation, and you guys got that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that the hotel thing is going to be a big hot button of concern. But let's just reel this in for the general public that are watching this and want to understand how an incident is ran. So let's break down the command structure for a major incident.
Okay. As far as you're talking about from just an ICS like org chart, or? Yeah,
let's go for the org chart and then like explain like how all these separate positions, what their role is in managing an incident.
So as with any incident, it doesn't matter if it's a type 5 incident to a type 1 incident. You're always going to have an incident commander. If we're talking about a type 1 incident, like a type 1, where it meets the complexity to require a type 1 team to come in, you're going to have your incident commander and your deputy incident commander. They're both qualified at the same level. So if the IC needs to step away, deputy IC is there, assumes control of the incident. There's no less education, no less experience. One just has to be the IC. Underneath the IC, you have your command staff, which is going to be your safety officer, your public information officer, and your liaison officer. Obviously, safety officer is responsible overall for the safety of the incident, from wearing your PPE on the line to the temperature of the food in the chow line is proper, like in everything in between. Like it's a pretty, there's a lot of responsibility being a safety officer. Public information officer, obviously responsible for all the information releases to the public. Those have to be vetted by the IC. So PIOs don't have the freedom just to release, whatever, size, acreage, evacuations, whether it's a warning or an actual evacuation order.
Kind of like your ready, set, go.
They have to. What's that?
Like the ready, set, go kind of protocols.
Yep, that has to be approved by the IC. Liaison officer, they deal with all of the kind of the, I don't want to say peripheral, but whether it's dealing with law enforcement, dealing with local, like Red Cross, the non-governmental, the NGOs, local groups like animal rescue, or utility companies. The liaison officer deals with all those folks. And then you have your sections. You have your finance section, your logistics section, your operations section, and your planning section. And obviously, finance takes care of basically paying the bills. Logistics is responsible for every single thing that you have on an incident, from the porta potties to the food to the comm unit to sleep trailers. Logistics is responsible for providing all of that stuff for the incident. You think about drop points out on the line where maybe they put extra soft fuel, oil, hose, brass, whatever it is. Logistics is responsible for getting that there and also getting it back from the line. So, some of these fires, you're going to have a few 100,000 feet of hose that logistics is responsible for getting back from the line, cleaning, rolling, and getting back to the cache.
Don't forget the testing too.
What's that?
Don't forget about the testing too.
Yep. Operations obviously responsible for putting the fire out. And then plans is responsible for tracking all the resources, building the IP, ordering resources, canceling resources, facilitating all the meetings, whether it's the operational briefing or planning meeting or the command and general staff meeting. But you take that all together, like for my team, I think we have 57 members assigned to the team, give or take 1 or 2 members. So that's in 2021. You go back to like 2002, you might have had a type 1 incident management team or incident command team, as they were called back then. You might have 12 people.
And that's
so it's grown tremendously. Like we just added a food unit leader last year. which I can't believe that we didn't have a food unit leader assigned because, obviously the catalyst for me even being on this team is because of a post I replied to on Hotshot Brewery regarding the food. I forgot. I think it might have been the lava fire. I don't want to call anybody out, but it was a fire up in Northern California, and they were talking about how terrible the food was. And I said, food and sleep are the two biggest things that you can provide. Quality sleep to keep the troops happy and keep them productive. And
you need fuel and recovery, man. Period.
Yep. And I don't care if it's an air conditioned tent, if it's a sleep trailer, if it's a hotel room,
local high school.
Doesn't matter. I mean, shoot, when I was doing it, working night assignments sucked.
Oh, yeah.
Because you sleep during the day. Well, when I did it, there was no air conditioned tents. You find some shade and then you chase the shade as as the sun moves. You wake up, you got ants on you or flies or whatever it was. I mean, but yeah, sleep and food are the two biggest things that you can provide. And so I would, for any firefighter out there, if you think that the logistical support that you're getting is not up to par, you need to go talk to somebody. I mean, for CalFire teams, the team members are identified because we all wear red hats. So if you have team 4, which is the team that I'm assigned to, if you have us as your team, we welcome that feedback, positive and negative, because we want to do a good job for you. And if we're not if we're not towing that line, please grab somebody with a red hat and say, hey, try to do it as respectfully as you can.
Yeah. Be professional about it.
Yeah. Be professional about it, but just say, hey, you know what? The sleep environment or the traffic flow or whatever it is, we think you guys can do a little bit better job. And we will, because we want to do a good job for you guys. But if you don't bring it up, we're not going to know.
Yeah. Well, how can you know unless you bring it up? That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I tell my wife, I'm not a mind reader. You got to tell me if I'm doing something that's pissing you off.
Heard that.
But yeah, that's kind of a real quick nuts and bolts breakdown of the ICS structure. It obviously gets a lot more in depth than that. But that's kind of the overarching view of what it is to be on a type 1 incident from the management team perspective.
Yeah. And then after that, you got, your divisions and so on and so forth, aviation, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts to a major incident, especially an emerging incident. It's utter chaos at times, especially on those emerging incidents. But I mean, I don't think that the general public understands that you're organizing a small army and you're responsible for feeding them, keeping them safe, keeping them well rested, and keeping them productive so you can fight fire.
Yeah, all of that, yes. But, even knowing where they are, talking about resource accountability or tracking, and that falls in my shop. My job is if somebody comes in and says, hey, I need to know where firefighter Smith is, he's assigned to, 9310 Charlie. We need to know where they are, whether they're out on the line. If they're on a line, what branch, what division are they working in? Or if they're on downtime R&R, what hotel are they staying at? Or are they in a sleep trailer in camp? That's our job, because, if they have something going on at home that someone's trying to get a hold of them, it's our job to be able to know where they're at. And that's it doesn't matter if you're, like I said, if you're on a single family dwelling structure fire in your local city, resource tracking, resource accountability is always going to be a big thing. So
nice.
Let's see what else on the team side of it.
I got a question for you. So yes. Rumor has it that CalFire is putting together like SISM teams that are staffing major fires. I think it's type 2 and type 1 fires. So your major fires, and they're having clinicians that are culturally competent and trained to deal with wildland firefighters and the aspects of wildland fire on staff in your incident command post. Is that true? Or
so those are typically. They do have teams. Yes, they do have teams. CalFire does a really, really good job with, it's called ESS, or Employee Support Services. And they have a bunch of folks that have been firefighters or are very familiar. So you're talking about the culturally competent clinicians.
It's a mouthful.
Right?
Yep.
Somebody that understands the stresses and the traumas that we're exposed to on a daily basis, versus just going through your normal EAP and just talking to a therapist or a counselor maybe they don't understand, and you're telling them about something that is affecting you, and they're crying because you're telling them about, kids are always the worst calls, but you're telling them about a kid call that you went on and it's affecting them. Like, hey, I came to you for help, and now you need help. So ESS through CalFire does a really good job of bringing folks into, and they're not pushy about it. Like, they'll set up a trailer and they'll say, hey, ESS is over in that trailer. If you, and they'll make their rounds and they'll talk to people, and they'll just say, hey, I'm here. If you need me, I'm over in that trailer. I'll tell you one of the coolest things that they did, and I'm not a big pet person, or I didn't think that I was. But a few years ago, I was on a fire. It's a long fire. As the fire seasons, you talk about the last probably 7 or 8 years, it seems like fire seasons are getting longer and longer, and the incidents are getting longer and longer. And ESS came through, and they just brought a couple of dogs, just
some therapy dogs.
Just a couple of therapy dogs, and I saw that dog, and instantly I was like, I felt better. And I'm not a pet person per se, so I said, hey, come over here, bring your dog over here. And they brought cats in. I mean, I think they had a mule or a donkey or a miniature horse or something come through one time. But it's amazing the effect, like the calming effect that them bringing those therapy animals in has. It's pretty cool. I actually took a picture of one of them, sent it to my kids, and said, hey, look who's in fire camp today. But they don't just come out; they have to be ordered. Those support teams. But that's kind of the job of the incident commander. And actually it's the call of the IC, but our IC is really good about taking input from the folks. And if there is an incident, like whether it's an incident within an incident, or we had something traumatic happen on an incident, we'll talk about, is this worth having, ESS come in with, just to set up and just to be available. And 99% of the time, as long as the teams aren't stretched so thin that they can't come out to our incident, the call is always going to be yes.
Nice. Yeah, I was under the impression that they're kind of like attached to the teams, the individual teams.
No, not yet. But they definitely are on speed dial, so to speak, if there is something. So like the car fire a few years ago, had that huge firenado go through there and killed a bunch, killed a dozer operator, killed the local Reading prevention officer. I want to say there was a grandma and a couple of kids that died in that fire, or in that firenado itself.
Yeah, it was a legitimate tornado that was made of fire.
And I'm sure you've seen the videos. I was the plants chief filling in on that team for the first few days, and one of the guys, he was assigned to the team, but he was a local guy. So he drove me out there, and it was amazing the amount of energy that thing had. Those electrical towers that are like 120 feet tall,
big high tension lines.
Yep. Those were torn to shreds. They were wrapped around trees. There was a Conex box that's probably 8 feet by 20 feet. It picked it up and moved it a couple 100 feet. Jeez. Like, it was amazing energy that went through there. A support team came in for that one. And you can even see these are veteran firefighters that have 20 plus years of experience, and they were affected. I was on that night when it happened, because I was the night plans chief. So I'm responsible for building the IP for that night. And operations, the whole teamwork thing, operations has to come in and say, hey, this is what we want. This is what we need. These are the, whatever it is. Well, I hadn't got those inputs yet, because they were dealing with this firenado. And I'm like, bro, it's 9:00 right now. Like, you still have a job to do. Let's get it together. Take 5-10 minutes, whatever you need to take. We still have to go we still have a job that needs to get done. Yeah. Because we still have a plan that we need to put together for tomorrow. But you're talking about guys with 20 plus years of experience that we're all human. Like, we're going to be affected. And it was one of the, I guess, the most traumatic incidents that I've been on, just because it's a close-knit community. You have firefighter and civilian deaths as a result of this unexpected firenado. But yeah, that's definitely something where ESS, and they did bring therapy animals in. They did set up a trailer. It was right in the middle of Trailer Row. So it wasn't like on the outskirts where you saw that thing every single day. And I'll give the guys and gals credit. I saw people going in and out of those doors a lot. So it's good that I really, really like where the fire service is going over the last couple of years, as far as, being more aware of the importance of mental health. And that was one of the things that I hit you up on, if we can please talk about this, because the stigma or the bravado that we bring into this, or that's, a part of this culture, we need to get over that.
100%. I think 100%.
I want to say it was on your podcast I listened to a few days ago that somebody said that the majority of firefighter fatalities now are now suicide versus cardiac, which traditionally been cardiac. We need to be monitoring ourselves, monitoring our people. If you see somebody that's not acting appropriately, or they seem just like they're down, or, they're all of a sudden they're negative, like, take that person aside and say, hey, what's going on? Is there anything that I can do to help you out with? Like, because like I just had a really, really good friend, whose son committed suicide the other day. He was a firefighter paramedic, super good dude. I'd known him since he was a kid. I didn't know him as well as his pops does, but I can't imagine the pain and the suffering that his family is going through right now. And I'm sure that there was probably some signs that, if you know how we are, like, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good, bro.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And I'm sure there were some things that were going on that, somebody should have been a little bit more persistent and said, bro, no, you're not good. Let's go get some help, or let's just sit down and talk about it. Try to figure this out together. And if we can't, then we'll go get some help. But, my department, we're developing a health and wellness program within the department. We have Next Strong as part of that.
Shout out to Charlie.
Yeah, Next Strong doing some
awesome,
great work
man.
out there for everybody. But overall, we need to get rid of that whole ego. That ego is not your amigo thing. Like, put that pride aside. Like, at some point, everybody's cup is a little different.
Oh yeah.
Some people can take more than others, and some people just one incident that, puts them over the edge. But at some point, we're all going to need help. And I listened to a thing the other day where they basically said, don't wait until you need the help. Like, establish that connection early. Find a therapist or a counselor that you kind of jive with. And then when you actually do need the help, you already have an established relationship. Like, that sounds pretty common sense and logical to me.
Yeah. When I was interviewing Shannon Mead, she's a local therapist here, local clinician here. And she was saying the exact same thing. It's like, no, it's the beginning of the season right now. I think I recorded with her in like middle of May. And she was saying the time to seek mental health help is now, before the fire season even starts. That way you already have that rapport with your clinician.
Yeah. Listen to Shannon. She knows what she's talking about. But whether you're on a hand crew or you're on an engine crew or you're in fire camp, as part of a team, like, for the most part, we all know what normal behavior is for each of our comrades and team members. If you see somebody that's not acting normal, they're a little bit down or they're a little bit more short, those, file those things away. Those are some watch out signs that's basically are saying, like, something's going on. And it could be as simple as they didn't get enough sleep that night, or, they missed their kid's birthday, whatever the case is. But we need to do a better job of taking care of each other.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. 100%.
And I think, for guys that are like me, that are a little bit older, have a little bit more seniority, if we set the example by saying, hey, it's like, basically you're saying it's okay. Like, if you go get help, like, tell your folks, like, hey, I'm seeing a therapist. I'm seeing a counselor. There's no shame in it. Maybe by the senior guys or gals doing that, it might kind of break that stigma that, hey, you know what? Burch is getting it. Why can't, I have similar, I'm having trouble sleeping at night. Or whatever your watch out sign is. I should go get some help too. If it's okay for him, why can't it be okay for me?
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It should be a point of pride, not like some weird stigma where you think you're weak or something like that. It should be a point of pride that you're seeking help.
Well, I don't remember who it was, but like when you go work out, like you're working out your legs and your back and your core and, your shoulders. Well, why can't you work out your mind? Like, what do you do to work out your mind? You should put as much, if probably not a little bit more, into your mental health than you do into your physical health. And they're all tied in together.
Oh yeah.
If mentally you're fucked, how do you think eventually your family life's going to be bad? Your work life's going to be bad. It's all tied in together, work on it all together.
Oh yeah. You need to,
total wellness.
That's the thing too, is like we always live this life. It's like part of our culture where it's so heavily ingrained into our culture that we just work hard, we play hard, and we don't really take care of ourselves at the end of the day. And I think that mindset is finally starting to change. And it's only been in like the recent past, maybe 5 years. So, because I got to see during my fire career, I got to see like the tail end of the old school and the beginning of the new school of thought for fire. And that's, fighting fire differently. It's taking care of your body, PTing different. I mean, it used to be just like running pull-ups and push-ups. That's all you did for PT, and you hiked your ass off. But now you're like throwing things in there like, oh yeah, you're doing like these weird ass like core stability things. Or yoga. Yeah. I'm a huge proponent of yoga, man. And now we're seeing the more mental component of that. And I'm fucking stoked to see that.
Yeah. My kids are 21 and 17. Or actually, she keeps reminding me she'll be 21 in 8 days, because then legally she can buy a drink out in the town, which we're going to on the 19th. But I have so much hope for today's generation of kids that are coming up, because I think they're a lot more accepting. They're more open-minded, at least in my experience. And I think that a lot of the things that, the whole suck it up and do your job, that mentality, they ask a lot more questions, which is good, because if you don't ask the question, then I'm just going to assume that you know what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But I think today's generation coming up if as senior leaders, if we can open our minds up a little bit to what is it that they're experiencing or what is it that they're going through, it's going to help us understand, to motivate them better, to make them more productive employees, to keep them happy. Happy employees are generally productive employees. But just the whole acceptance part and being open-minded, I think a lot of this stuff is eventually going to, it has the ebb and flow, the roller coaster, or cyclical, some people will say. Eventually we're going to get to the point where it's okay to get help. It's okay to say, I don't know. And that's, even for me, I'm 47. And I keep telling my kids, it's the whole practice what you preach thing. Hey, honey, it's okay to say, I don't know, or I don't have the answer. But I struggle with that every single day. Like, I feel like I have to have the answer. Like, I'm the dad, I'm the matriarch or the patriarch of the family. I'm supposed to have the answer, but it's hard to sometimes say, let me get back to you on that one.
Let me do a little research before I answer that one. But that's the thing too, though, is like, it's our job to pass down our values and build that foundation for the next generation, so they're just better. And that constant betterment of your foundation makes for better firefighters in the future. So that's our job, man. Yep.
I agree 100%. If we're in it for the right reasons, it's that whole the critical thinking, what I try to do every night before I go to bed, or when I lay down to go to bed, is kind of evaluate what it was that I did during that day. And is there anything that I would do differently? Is there anything that I could have handled differently? Just kind of do like a little self-analysis. And it doesn't have to be, it can be when you wake up in the morning. Just think about what it is you're doing. is what you're doing in line with your personal values? And if you don't, maybe you haven't formalized those personal values, maybe that's where you start. Like sit down and go, what's important to me and what's going to help me be successful? What's going to help me pass on those really good traits to my kids or to my crew or to whoever it is that, you're responsible for developing. Sit down and do that. And I think from that point, everybody's going to, we're going to start going in the right direction. Because right now, you look at how the country is so divided. You're either red or you're blue. You're either, Republican or you're Democrat.
Good old fashioned political litmus test.
Yeah. You cannot be anywhere in the middle. If you're a Republican and you say, hey, that Democrat has a pretty good idea, then all of a sudden you're a traitor to that party. We need to get more in the middle.
Yeah. Do what makes sense. What does right look like? And I'm not talking like political right. I'm talking about like, what does correct look like? Yes. And I don't want to turn this into a political podcast because that. There's a bag. Yeah, that's a big bag of worms, man. I try not to get political on the show either. I have my own values and I'm pretty center, I guess you could say. But yeah, man, I just don't understand what is with the popularity behind the political purity test that everybody adheres to, whether you're this side or the other. I just don't get it. And if you don't pass one of those little litmus tests, well, then you're, like you said, a traitor to your party or whatever.
It's like my wife and I, we're kind of on opposite sides of the line, but we're kind of close to the middle. Mm-hmm. But she's definitely a little bit more on the liberal side. I'm a little bit more on the conservative side. And what we've kind of agreed on is that we both want to get to a similar spot. Like we happy, successful, we raised a couple of good human beings. Like we want to get to the same spot. We're just taking different paths to get there. But ultimately, I think as a country, we all want to get to a similar spot where, we're all happy. We're, comfortable. The family's good, whatever it is. Just, we need to get more.
Yeah. We need to do what makes sense. Need to do what makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, is like, yeah, man, you need to talk. And that's what the whole basis of this whole thing is, right? It's a science experiment, right? Our country is founded off of a science experiment. Is it a utopia? Hell no, but no other country is. But this one's pretty damn good. We got it pretty good over here.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? One thing I did, as far as like fires and team and stuff like that, is the whole COVID thing. I think we're getting out of it. I think we're on the right track for that. I haven't heard anything this year yet as far as mask. In California, the mask mandate was lifted on June 15th. So I think the only place you have to wear a mask now is any like travel, like at the airport or bus depot or whatever. But I haven't heard anything about in fire camp having to. But last year sucked because it was in the middle of it. My first activation was to the Gold Fire up on the last in Modoc. And there was no vaccinations available yet. They hadn't really been, they were still testing them out, but it sucked because, I'm the plant section chief. So I'm front and center during, in that operational briefing in the morning time. And I felt like I had to have that mask on to set that good example, but God damn, it sucked so bad wearing that thing.
Oh yeah, man.
It was terrible.
That's another thing too that was unnecessarily politicized, I think, too, is like the whole masks or this, that, and the other. It's just like, God, man, come on, just do what makes sense. It's God.
Well, to our IC's credit, he told his bosses like, hey, we're not the COVID police. Like, we'll put the signs up. Hey, wear a mask when you're in the chow line, wear a mask when you're at the operational briefing. Like, we'll put the signs up, but it's not our job to enforce that. So, I tell them in the morning, hey, if you're going to be in the operational briefing, it's expected that you wear a mask, blah, blah, blah. But we're not going to go individually and call people out like, hey, dude, put your mask on. Like, you know what's right and you know what's wrong.
Well, I think it's also an individual like responsibility to do what you feel is right. I mean, I'm not an anti-masker. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not for mandatory vaccinations or anything like that. But I think people need to understand that there's an individual responsibility. The risks, that you might have risk factors outside your family or your fellow firefighter or this, that, and the other. So at the end of the day, if if you want to play dumb games, you win dumb prizes.
Yep, for sure. And it's like, so we flew back from Tennessee yesterday. We went on a little family vacation before fire season really kicks off, just to have one more week of downtime and kind of recharge batteries. And so in, airports, you got to wear a mask. On the airplane, you got to wear a mask. When my daughter's sitting next to a girl, and the entire time she's sneezing, coughing, and I'm hoping it was allergies, but I'm thinking at least she's got a mask on. So there's a little bit of protection, but I mean, they're sitting right next to each other. So all right, honey, well, and she's been vaccinated. So if it's COVID, I'm not super worried. Even if it was a cold, I'm not super worried about it. She's young, healthy, her immune system's working.
Yeah, but it still sucks. No one likes getting sick.
Nobody likes getting sick, period. But that is one, I guess, positive aspect of this whole mask mandate over the last year was that what kind of flu season did we have?
I don't even know. I don't even think we really had a flu season this year, just because of everybody was, doing what they were supposed to do when they learned what they learned in kindergarten, which was to wash your hands, cough into your elbow or something like that. It's like, come on.
So there was some benefits to wearing the mask, as flu and cold season kind of went away last year. But hey, if I don't ever have to wear another mask, I'm not gonna complain. I'm pretty much over it, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to get back to normal. And I'll tell you, we went to Gatlinburg. That's like redneck Vegas there. I mean, it was, the streets are just lined with people. There's shops everywhere. It was awesome. Like I can say, Gatlinburg is back. I don't know if they ever went away, but the tourism was crazy insane. It was like Vegas. Like the streets were just jam packed and everybody's having a great time. And we had a great time. We almost had a little bit too much fun on a couple of nights, but hey, that's what vacation's for. So,
oh yeah.
Well,
that's a crazy thing though. I'm just like, I know we're hammering home this COVID thing, but I'm just happy to see things like that we've all taken for granted, like 4th of July fireworks, man, to actually be able to see fireworks and not have them canceled because of a virus.
Yes.
It's important to your mental health. And that's for not only just you and me, but everybody in this country. Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Yep.
Things like going to Gatlinburg.
For sure. I 100% agree on that. And there's that whole, I'm going to call it COVID depression, but
it's a real thing, dude. It was a real thing. And Shannon and I actually talked about that too.
You know what? Was she the one talking about memory loss too?
Yep. The COVID blackout.
What happened for the last month? Did I black out? I'll tell you, I was in the best shape of my life. I ordered a bunch of stuff online and installed a gym in the garage because all the gyms were closed down.
Yep.
And dude, I was working out 2-3 times a day. Because what else can I do? I couldn't go to a store. Can't go to a movie theater.
Yeah.
Can't go to a baseball game. So shit. I guess I'll go work out again.
It's either that or you just start hitting the bottle.
What's that?
It's either that or you start hitting the bottle, which a lot of people did.
And I'm not a big drinker, but I got into IPAs pretty good. So
there's nothing wrong with the occasional IPA.
No. My brothers, I have a couple of brothers that are younger than me. They're twins, but they were always talking shit on me because I was always like lighter beers. And they're basically said, welcome to manhood when I started drinking IPAs. So thanks, boys. I appreciate you welcoming me into the official man group because I drink real beers now, I guess.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I was spoiled, man. I lived in Central Oregon for a little while, so I was spoiled with the whole good beer thing.
You know what? I didn't. So in Chico, they have the Sierra Nevada brewery, right?
I literally had my bachelor party there.
Did you really?
Yep. We went to Chico, of all places. I could have gone anywhere. I wanted nope, we're going to Sierra Nevada. Did
you know there's a Sierra Nevada brewery in Tennessee as well?
Yeah, the East Coast. It's I think in Asheville, right?
Yeah, not Tennessee, in North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
Yeah. We're driving. We drove to go see a friend. My buddy that lives in North Carolina. Like, holy shit, that's a Sierra Nevada. I thought they were Chico. I thought they're up Northern California. I guess They have one on the East Coast too.
They've infiltrated the East Coast.
Cool thing about Sierra Nevada is that the CalFire in 2018, I want to say it burned 18,000 homes or something like that.
It was a lot.
It was in the middle of Thanksgiving. My team was assigned to that incident, and our information officer, who's a stud, shout out to Steve Kaufman from Ventura County Fire. He is the best PIO I've ever worked with. He reached out to Sierra Nevada, brought in a couple of celebrities, and then we took turns. We had rotations where Sierra Nevada, they had Thanksgiving dinner at the brewery, and it was free for anybody from Chico, anybody from Paradise, anybody from Magalia. And so kind of the, a little morale boost for people that lost literally everything they own in their entire lives. And the local brewery there opened up their doors to say, hey, we want you guys to still have Thanksgiving. And then all the firefighters would go down there, because they even reached out to firefighters that were on their downtime on R&R, like, hey, if you guys want to take a turn, come in here and serve some food or bust some tables, or, just meet and greet and let the people say thanks. It was a pretty amazing experience. I'm not going to lie, I got a little choked up a couple of times listening to the stories of some of the people. There's some amazing people up there. We went out to dinner one night just because you get tired of camp food. And so we went out to dinner one night, and there's a family of 4 or 5 sitting at the local Mexican restaurant, and I'm ear hustling, and I hear them talking about, like, it was mom and dad, and then they had adult children. Both of them lost their homes.
Ooh.
And so I go over and I kind of catch the attention of the server, and I said, hey, bring their ticket to this table. And so we kind of did it on the sly. We paid for their meal. And when they found out about it, they were, open arms, and they're like, we should be buying you guys dinner. I'm like, what are you talking about? You literally lost everything that you own in your entire lives. This is the least we can do, is to, buy a meal for you guys. But I think it goes to show the character of the people in those communities up there, that, they're thinking they should be taking care of us, and we're the public servants paid to take care of them. There's some amazing people around this country. If you really, I tell my kids, when you wake up in the morning, you're either going to have a good day or a bad day, and that's all up to you. Like, if you wake up and go, today I'm going to have a great day, chances are you're going to have a great day. But if you wake up in a bad mood and say, I got a headache, or this day I got homework, or whatever it is, that's your choice.
Oh yeah.
It's your choice if you're going to have a good day or a bad day. But
that's the thing too, is like, we can't control a lot of the things that happen in life. A lot of it's completely out of our control, but what we can control is our reaction to it.
Yeah. 100% agree to that. There's just so many things that you have no control over. It's just, but you can't control how you react to it, like you just said.
Oh yeah, man.
So
speaking of control and being able to react to things, we got wildly off topic there. So let's bring it back into the plan section, Chief, here. So apologies, man. We went on a tangent. And so plan section, Chief, speaking of the campfire and the car fire. So when it comes to plans, when you have a catastrophic fire like this, how would you organize that? I mean, what would be plans' role in that whole thing? Because ops is getting screwed over,
Well, so if you go through any type of management training, whether it's S420 or S520, which is the federal advanced incident management training, California or CalFire has 2. They have the SIMC, which is complex incident management, and then they have AIM, which is all hazards incident management. AIM is kind of the upper echelon, where if you go through AIM, I want to say it's a 9 or a 10-day course, and there are no fire scenarios in there. Everything is like cat flu or a train derailment or an earthquake or a pandemic. But the thing that they teach in doesn't matter what level, 420, 520, SIMC, AIM, is process. And so you have to have your process outlined and what it is you're supposed to do. And it's no different than if you're an EMT and you're going through your normal medical, your patient assessment survey, your OP, QRST sample, whatever it is. If you get off track, like we've done a couple times on this podcast already, you're supposed to refer back to your process to get you back in line. So as callous as it might seem, whenever you have like, a near miss, or you have an actual burnover, or you have a fatality, or anything just bad in general on an incident, we're still the professionals. We still have a job to do. We can't be sidetracked, by those things. Because like on the, was it the Butte Tehama? I can't remember if it was the Butte Tehama Glen complex or if it's the August complex. We had that firefighter fatality. She was from Texas, but she was working for a contractor from Oregon. And I was listening to the radio when that Mayday went out, and I'm like, oh shit, there's something legit going on right now. Ended up, unfortunately, she died, but there was a couple of other injuries. So, it's an incident with an incident. You got to get resources in there to, try to affect some type of rescue or medevac, or, take care of the people that are involved in the incident or in that situation. But it can't sidetrack the rest of the incident. There's still a fire to put out. There's still logistical support that needs to be ordered or provided. There's still plans that need to be built. So to answer your question on what plans component is, we're kind of the process police. Like, it's our job to make sure that everybody, yes, we have to address those incidents with an incident, but we still have to make sure that everybody is on track to get their inputs in on a timely manner to build that next plan for the next operational period. So
like your 214s and that kind of stuff, like talking to NMAC and seeing if you can get more resources and reprioritizing your fire, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of, that's part of it, but it's more just the internal to the incident process. Whether it's, hey, for operations guys, what resources do you need to function on your divisions and branches on the next operational period? What, do you need to order more hand crews, more engines, whatever it is? What are your work assignments for that? That all that stuff still needs to be captured. And that's why it's good to have a little bit of depth, because, and going back to that, who's the most important member of the team? Well, if operations is dealing with a line of duty or a burnover on one of their divisions, well, then the other components of the team can step in there and help him do his, help him keep his process going. And that's only built through, incidents and rapport and relationships and, having previous experience, because then you build that trust that, hey, operations is taking care of this. I know what it is that they need. I'm not going to wait for him. I'll let him know when he gets available, but we still need to keep, this train moving forward. So plans is the process police. And I kind of wear it as a badge of honor. Like, hey, it is my job to get people back on track, or give them the right direction, whatever it is that's needed at that time. But yeah, those situations suck because, we're all human and we all want everybody to go home safely. But again, like I said, you kind of got to be a little bit callous to it and be like, all right, that sucked, but you know what? I still have a job to do.
Well, yeah, it's important work though, because I mean, the fire is still rolling through, it's still going, and you still have, future resource needs. You have future values at risk, and you still need to put the fire out at the end of the day.
Yeah. You still need to take care of all of the other people that weren't affected,
Right.
And then, the big part is that, okay, so all of the people that were affected by that incident with an incident, because they're all touching each other. So the neighboring divisions, they heard the traffic. They probably sent resources over there to help out as well. The helicopter that flew the burn victim out, the crew that had to go in there and retrieve the body. Like, how are they being affected? Like, what support or therapy are they going to need? So we, that whole team effort, we all need to keep track of each other and be, hey, that was a really terrible incident that just happened. I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, but I'm going to come back to you to make sure you're doing all right. So yeah, it's, there's some, don't get me wrong. The the majority of the incidents that we go on are fun and successful. We have a great time. But just like anything else in life, there's going to be some shitty components or some shitty aspects to the incidents. And, it's our job to make sure that everybody goes home in as good a shape or better than when they actually arrived at the incident. And that's what we strive for every time. So health and safety is one of the values of the team, at least for Team 4. So we have professionalism, health and safety. And I'm brain farting right now. Professionalism, health and well.
I got you, man. So plans, they basically, not only they do like the IAP, you guys print maps and stuff like that. You guys you disseminate information to the boots on the ground at the end of the day. Now, how does that work? Do you guys interoperate with ops? Do you interoperate with IC, all of it? Like, how does that whole thing shake down?
So there's a planning process, or the planning P. You can look it up. You can Google it. Just type in planning P, and it'll give you. It looks like a P, and it goes through from the initial in brief all the way until you get into your planning cycle. So on a 24-hour operational period, like most CalFire incidents are run, you have your operational briefing at 0700. That is the culmination of all of the work that's being done, and it culminates in the operational briefing. Generally, we like to keep those briefings to 30 minutes or less. Had an old IC who basically said, be brief, be brilliant, and be seated. So don't be up there talking long-winded about this, that, or the other. Like, get your point across. Let's move on to the next person. Because the bottom line is, the sooner that we get folks out of that operational briefing, they do the division breakouts, they get out to the line to relieve the resources that have been out there for the last 24 hours. But throughout the day, we're always gathering that intel. Operations will be pinging their divisions and branches, usually like around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Hey, what resources are you going to need for the next operational period? That information gets channeled to the ops section chief, usually around 1500, 1600. You'll have operations, you'll have a resource unit leader, you'll have a safety officer, and you'll have a logistics guy. Those are the four main guys or folks that need to be in this. We call it our tactics meeting. That's supposed to be a smaller, more intimate meeting, so that when operations lines out what it is that they want to do for the next operational period, that because the more people you get into a group, the less likely someone is to bring forward any objections. Like, hey, logistically, you want to put on this burn show, but we don't have the firing devices or the drip mix we need to order that stuff. You need to give us a day or two to order all that stuff. So the more people you get into that tactics meeting, the less likely it is someone's going to object. So we'll try to keep that one nice and small, but it is good for the comm unit leader, because if they're going to create more divisions, well, the comm unit leader, that's going to affect his comm plan, because he's going to have to get more TAC channels for those divisions. And then if we can have the SIT unit leader in there as well, because the SIT unit leader every single day at 0600 and at 1800, there's called the 209, the incident status summary. And it basically, this is what's sent to the GACs, and they prioritize the incidents based on that 209. So what resources do you need? What's the containment percentage? How big is the fire? What's the anticipated growth? What resources are you going to need to be successful in the next 12, 24, 48, 72 hours? So if he can glean some information out of that tactics meeting, it's going to make his timeline a little bit more manageable or achievable. Once they get out of that tactics meeting, that's where they line out the division breakdown, branch breakdown, work assignments, what resources are going to be requested. Then it goes into the planning meeting. The planning meeting is where all the command and general staff, as well as any other stakeholders or unified ICs, are going to participate. So you might have the sheriffs in there. You might have local utilities that are in there. You might have local logging companies that are in there. Anybody that's going to be affected by the incident is kind of invited into that planning meeting. And that's where the next operational plan is laid out. Operations will talk about, hey, this is the work that we got done today. This is what the work that we want to get done tomorrow. there'll be an IMET or incident meteorologist will get up there and give the weather predictions for the next operational period, and usually like 2 or 3 days out. If there's anything significant coming, like winds or dry lightning or any, thunderstorms or anything like that, then he'll line that out, because going back to the whole unskilled labor thing, all of those components are going to affect the work that you want to get done. So if you're putting in a huge indirect piece of line, because there's no values out there that are risk, you don't have any structures, you don't have any infrastructure, like, hey, let's just build this giant indirect line. Let's just burn from it. Well, if you have, adverse weather coming in, that's going to affect when you put that plan into place, because you don't want to go out there and do it and then like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we had a wind shift coming, and now your plan sucks. You'll have the fire behavior analyst will get up there and he'll talk about, hey, this is the predicted fire behavior for the fuels, and he'll go around the clock on the incident. In Division Alpha, you have, fuel models 1, 4, and 10. And the probability of ignition is this, that, or the other based on the weather and the RH and the live and dead fuel moistures, all that science,
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can have a person that can simplify that so that a firefighter can understand it and go, okay, hey, our pig on this division is 95%. I mean, last year, a bunch of times it was 100%. Like if you have any Embercast, there's 100% chance that that thing is going to start spot fire. Well, it's going to bring your SA up a little bit, so the guys aren't being complacent on the line. Like, hey, we're a mile away from the main fire or a flank or whatever. But as well as I do that you can have spot fires a mile out in front of your main fire. It's easy. It's becoming more and more
common these days too.
Yeah. So it just increases the situational awareness for the guys. You'll have an aircraft, like an aircraft status update, like how many type 1 ships do we have, type 2, type 3 helicopters, all of that stuff. And then there's some of the fluff stuff that it's not really important to the boots on the ground, but it's important to the incident for the stakeholders when it comes to like the liaison stuff and the information stuff. Because the information officer, like I said before, they're responsible for the news releases to the public.
And you have an intimate role with that as well. It's like you're simplifying the message for the general public and disseminating that with permission of the IC to the PIO.
Yeah. And then the PIO will release that information because, the public, if they're under evacuation order, well, they're not at their homes. When can we get back to our homes? If there's road closures that are, so it disrupts the entire, local community's way of living. So the sooner that we can get people back into their houses, the happier the locals are going to be. But the PIO's part in that is pretty important because that information gets out to the people, and then they'll have community, like local community meetings, like town hall meetings, where we'll have representation from the management side that goes out there and they just do Q&A. We'll say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where the fire's going. This is what we anticipate or expect. Do you guys have any questions? And it gives, I think, peace of mind. There's been some heated ones, but it gives peace of mind to the locals that, hey, the folks that are in here that are fighting this fire or trying to put this fire out, they do have our best interests in mind, and they are considering us, and they know that we're not in our homes. And so going back to the core values of our team, customer service was the one I couldn't think of. So health and wellness, or health and safety, professionalism, and customer service. And customer service is a huge aspect. I mean, we're all public servants, and the public is our customer. So we want them to be taken care of,
and informed.
And because as well as I do, if you don't give them the right information, they're just going to make it up.
Oh yeah.
And generally it's not going to be correct. The IC, the incident commander, will always, before we finish with the IC, we'll have an opportunity for anybody to have any objections or ask any questions that are in that meeting. Generally, they're not. Most of the folks will say that they can support the plan, but that's an opportunity for them to say, hey, you know what? I can't support that plan because of this, that, or the other. And that's what the planning meeting is for, is to vet out any of those issues. And then at the very end, we'll finish with the IC, and the IC will kind of get up there and have some words of, hey, this is what we're going to do, and I like the plan, and this, that, and the other. And then after that planning meeting is over, usually that's, we try to keep all of our meetings 30 minutes or less because we all have work to do. Once that planning meeting is over, then the plan shop goes to work starting to build the next IAP or incident action plan. That's primarily built by the resource unit leaders. There's 4 units that work under the plan section chief. You have the resource unit, the documentation unit, the demob unit, and the situation unit. And they all work together. The resource units will compile all of the inputs from all of the other sections because finance is going to have a message. The 204s, which is primarily what the choppers and squirters, that's their work, that's their direction, their division assignment list for the next day. We get all that information from operations. Logistics, if there's any logistical issues like drop points or new drop points or backhaul and trash, you can backhaul to this drop point and then we'll send out runners to pick up the trash. We compile all that information. The goal is to get that thing to print, at least on a CalFire incident. The earlier the better, because like on the Thomas fire was probably the biggest fire that I was on. We had, I think, 9,000 people assigned to that incident with multiple base camps.
Damn.
You might be printing 1,500 to 2,000 IAPs for an incident like that. So the clerical unit, they need time to print, and some of these IAPs are 80 pages long because there's just so many divisions, so many branches.
A lot of stuff going on.
So you need to give them the lead time to print them. So if you get them to them at 5 o'clock in the morning, an expectation to hand IAPs out at 7 o'clock in the morning for an operation briefing, not going to happen.
No.
So the sooner we get that done, the sooner that they can get their print, because they're also printing maps. They're printing the map packets, the operational maps. I mean, they have a lot of work to do. So the sooner we can get stuff to them, the sooner they can print that out. So usually 2, 3 o'clock in the morning is kind of the, obviously sooner the better, but 2 or 3 is kind of the cutoff. Like, hey, we need to get whatever we have, we need to get it to the printer or the clerical unit by this time. And then after that point, we'll usually have a pre-ops meeting at 0630 or 0600. And then all the branches and divisions and the ops chief will meet in the tent away from everybody else. And they'll line out, hey, this is what they get. It gets really down to the nitty gritty, down to the weeds. Like, hey, branch 1, get up here and talk about it. Okay, branch out or division alpha, you need to get up here and they're basically having a conversation in the off-going division with the oncoming division. So, hey, we were able to tie in line or plumbed it all the way up to this point. We're hoping that you guys get done today is to get from this point to this point. So a really, really good pass down of information. That's
kind of like setting the intent behind the mission that is coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a lot of communications. Some teams do it better than others. Some folks do it better than others because, each team has its culture, its own culture. Each department has its own culture. Each team has its own culture. And then that meeting will usually wrap up like around 6:30, 6:45, depends on how much information there is. And then everybody show up to the operational briefing at 0700 and do it all over again. Do the mass grand layout for the day. So, and that's my job. My job as a plan chief is to facilitate that meeting. So I'll come up there, open it, tell everybody to turn off their devices and basically pay attention. a couple of times when you have groups of 1,000 people out there in the audience, and we'll have speakers out there, to get the volume, but occasionally you'll still have those groups of people that are still having their little itty bitty committee. And a couple of times I've had to yell like, hey, and then everybody turns around like, oh shit, briefing's getting going.
Oh man. So basically at the end of the day, the plan section chief is basically the mass communications division of the fire. Like you work with ops, you work with comms, you work with IMET, you work with FBAN, you work with the IC to disseminate the message and of what we're doing on the fire for that given shift. Yep.
Yeah. And it's not, we're just collecting all of the information. We don't necessarily create it, but we collect it, we process it, we kind of package it up a little bit.
You make it digestible.
And then we'll send it out to the troops. Because there's the report, the ROC report on conditions every day that we need to do that. The SIT or the 209 that we need to every day, twice a day. I mean, we're just constantly processing, taking in all this information. And now with all the UAV stuff, all the drone stuff, with live streaming and new IR technology that they can get throughout the day versus the old, the NIROPS. NIROPS is still good, but there's so many platforms now that can gather that information during the day in like real time. And we can start pointing people to, hey, on Division Alpha, next to this fire engine, next to this log, 15 feet off the line, there's a hot spot, and it's good. But like I was telling you before we went on, the technology aspect of it is starting to pass me up, and aces in places, right? So I don't need to know how all that stuff works, but if I have good people in those positions that know how that works, then that's going to make me look good and the whole team look good. And so I have a really, really, really good section of folks, and then we have some. I don't want to call them soldiers of fortune, but we have some folks out that are kind of like guns for hire.
A little bit of mercenary action.
Yes, a little. So we got some mercs out there, and when it looks like we're going to get activated, we'll do all this prior to. We'll say, hey, are you available? Are you available? And then we'll roster them on the team. And if we get punched out, then they automatically get a request number, so we don't have to go through the normal hiring or the ordering process to get them out there. But I have a really, really, I'm so blessed with the guys and girls that I have on my team, because they make me look so good because of how good they are and how professional they are. Going back to the mentorship and succession planning and all that stuff, I got 2 years left in me for the team stuff. It just, I want my summers back, like go hang out with the family and go to cool stuff. I haven't had a summer off since 1996. Oh, wow. So yeah, so it's been a little bit, but the people that I have coming up behind me are the little bit that I'm giving them, they're going to do so much better than I am. And which that's what we want, right? We want the people coming after us to do a better job than us. And I'm pretty sure that the folks that I have, they're going to take it and run with it and make it even better than what I've done. So, but yeah, that's kind of the plan shop I guess not a nutshell, because that was kind of long-winded, but
we went off on a pretty substantial tangent there. So it's all good.
Yeah.
All good,
yeah,
man.
for sure. But it's all good. It's all good. I'm an open book. Sometimes I'm too open. I sometimes need to filter out, like it goes from brain to mouth and there's no filtering, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. So
you should have seen me last night during the Conor McGregor fight. Oh man, dude, did you get to watch it or what?
No. But I woke up this morning and I saw that he had a TKO. He hurt his leg in the first round, and I'm like,
yeah. Who was that? John Jones that broke his tibia. Did you see that video where he like stepped back on his tibia and it just like folded in half?
A couple months ago.
I want to say so. Yeah.
Or was that a different guy? He leg kick, stepped back, his ankles broke or his tib was broke, and it kind of just a little like he tried to stand up on it. Was that? I don't know if that was John Jones, but I know a couple months ago I watched that fight. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was John Jones or what, but yeah, of course though, once by oversharing, of course, I was just straight to that screenshot on the old meme channel. I was just making these dumb memes about one of my to send them out to my buddies with the.
So what did he hurt? What happened?
He snapped like his lower tib fib. So
he broke his leg.
Oh yeah, dude. He stepped back on it and that thing just folded in half. It was gross. Wow. It was like one of those, like, you ever seen those injuries where you're just like, oh
yeah, no, any ankle or knee injury. That's how I get immediately. I can watch it one time and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to see it.
Yeah. I was good, man. But, yeah, the prelims are pretty good, but yeah, of course I was sitting there, making memes and talking shit to my buddies that would put money on Conor McGregor. I'm like, dude, come on.
Oh, you put money on Conor?
I didn't. No, I don't do sports betting, but yeah, a couple of my friends did. And I was just like, huh, how's that treating you?
Yep.
Oh man. But yeah, man. Did you guys, did you get to see some of the fire behavior, bringing it back to like the longer, more intense, crazy fire seasons that we're having? Did you get to see some of the footage that was being put out there on the old socials about the Beckworth complex?
Yeah, I did. I saw what you posted last night, and I saw like a couple of other Instagram pages that I follow that posted the same picture. And it is insane. I think it really speaks that for line supervision, they need to either have those TRAs really easily identified, flagged off, safety zones, probably make them more frequent and more big. Like if it's 4.5 times the flame length on all sides for, adequate safety zone, I'd go 10 times.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're up in, timber, like that's up in Northern California, it's just not, it'll grow back. We have insurance. We can rebuild houses, but it's really, really hard to get over the loss of or injury, of somebody because they're trying to, put the fire out. I mean, that's our job to do, but we can do it safely. We just need to be a little bit more forward thinking on some of those things.
Yeah, that I think we just need to be more proactive instead of reactive as just in looking at wildfire in general. And that, of course, requires staffing. But the fuels loading, the weather patterns that are shifting. And I know I'm going to get torn up for this one, but I've seen from my very short career of 11 years, fire intensity growing at an exponential pace. Everything's like, maybe not exponential, but it's rapidly getting longer, hotter, drier, more intense fire seasons. And it's only trending that direction. So, but yeah, man, I tried to warn, I tried to give a shout out because that used to be like my old stomping grounds. Did a lot of work over in that area. And I think it's one of those like lesser known, low key, dangerous places to fight fires on the escarpment over there on the Diamond Range and the Doyle Triangle and Beckworth, the whole Plumas National Forest, man. Don't underestimate it. It's crazy. It gets really crazy over there.
Well, I think, the very first, when I worked Hotshots for 3 years, and I don't recall the biggest fire because I was just there to, go cut line and burn out and stuff like that. But I would venture to say the biggest fire I was probably on was maybe 10,000 acres, 15,000 acres, maybe. Back then that was a career. If you had a 10,000 acre fire, that was like, that's the biggest fire that I've ever been on and I'll ever go on in my career. Yeah.
It's like historic.
Some of these fires are burning 80,000 acres in just one burn period. Like I think that the campfire did that. I think even the North Complex last year, I think it burned like 85,000 acres in one burn period. The Thomas Fire burned 12 miles in one night. So it's just, with the global climate change, with the temperatures rising, the drought, the persistent drought that we're in California, the live and dead fuel moistures are, critically low. We're seeing what typical fuel moistures that we'll see in September, October, we're seeing in May, June now.
Oh yeah.
So as firefighters, my daughter's boyfriend, he's a firefighter one with CalFire in Riverside. He's got his 3rd season. And so he's feeling kind of salty because he's like the senior guy at a station now after 3 seasons of being a firefighter. But those are the guys that, hey, be heads up. Don't just ride in the back seat and go do what your captain or engineer tells you to do. Like, be smart about it. Be a thinking firefighter and go, okay, hey, the temperature is going to be this today. The winds are coming out of this direction. RH is expected to go out of this. What's our probability of ignition today? What's, our burn index? What are the factors that are going to affect my safety and how I'm going to do my job today? Like, those are the things that we need to really start ingraining into these young firefighters so that they're not just robots. They're just, hey, Cap, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. Have that discussion. Like I said earlier, about this generation being a little bit more open-minded and asking questions. Like, ask those questions because we don't see it all. We've been around for a little bit, but we don't have all the answers.
Yeah, you haven't seen it all.
It's a team effort. Ask those questions. Maybe you're going to point something out that your captain didn't see. Like, hey, there's a propane tank right there on that side. Oh shit, I didn't see that.
Well, that's a two-way street too, though, man. That's a two-way street because the leadership needs to be receptive and open to their boots on the ground as well. It doesn't matter if you're the rookie that's huffing a jerry can or, your next senior level guy. You need to be aware and cognizant of what these guys are seeing, and guys and girls.
100% agree, because you think there are folks coming into the fire service now that have some significant life experience. They're not just kids out of high school. I mean, you got a lot of vets that have, they've lived life. Like, they're not spring chickens. So if they say, hey, Cap, or hey, Soup, or whoever, what do you think about this? Like, consider what they're saying. Like, don't just discard it.
That shut up and dig mentality of shut up and dig mentality. It needs to go. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. But yeah, the fire behavior, I'd say, Western United States, region 3, region 5, like, be ready for, many more years of long haul, unless we have some other crazy global climate change where all of a sudden we start getting, wetter weather patterns. It's going to be like this for the next few years.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, we had our, was it a 1.1 million acre fire on the August complex? That's unheard of.
Yeah. Like, I think almost all of Mendocino National Forest burned in the last probably 3 years. Because what was it? The Mendocino complex. Oh, what was that? Like 3 years ago, it became the biggest fire in California. I want to say it was like 2018. It was a complex. 2019. I think it burned like 400,000 or 500,000 acres. And at the time that record was bigger than obviously anything ever in California history. Okay, well, hold on. 2020 basically said, hold my beer. And, you have the August complex go through. So it's not going to change anytime soon. This is what we're going to be dealing with for the next few years.
It's definitely the new normal.
Yep, for sure. One thing I wanted to say is going back to the campfire, Arnold Schwarzenegger has, he's made his rounds back when he was the governor, and he was a huge proponent of fire service, huge proponent. And it was towards the end of the incident, but he flew in from wherever he flew in from. He was over in Europe somewhere filming a movie.
The Expendables 6 or whatever.
What's that?
The Expendables number 6 or whatever.
Probably. But you know how there's people in your life that people that you've never met. I've never met Arnold before until then. And you have this preconceived notion of what they are. This guy lived up to it and then some. Like, he was gracious, humble, listened. He wasn't there it wasn't about him. It was about the folk. The dude was serving food in the chow hall.
That's awesome.
No entourage. I think he had 2 people with him. And so he walked around fire camp and just walked around and said hi to people. I mean, it was an amazing experience. It made me a fan for life. Like, I've heard all the things that he's done in the past. I've been on incidents where he's been there in the past, but I was never in a position to see him or talk to him. He came out on the during the op briefing towards the end, talked to the guys that were the folks that were there in the operational briefing, like a pep talk. And if you look at I'm not on Facebook, but I was told this was on Facebook. I keep looking at my watch because my job is to facilitate this and we need to get these folks out to the line to get to work. And I kept looking at my watch, and a couple of the comments were, look at this poor guy. He keeps looking at his watch because he fucking talked for probably like 15 minutes.
You're trying to get people out on the line to go do work.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, how am I going to get this guy to wrap this thing up? And so he finally does. And when I get the mic back, I'm like, man, I'm glad he finished, because I was trying to figure out how I'm going to kick Terminator off the stage. But no, he did a great job. And like I said, all of the preconceived, images or notions or whatever it was I had about him, he lived up to it and then some. It was a really, really cool experience. And I'm not going to compare Arnold to a therapy dog, but it was like bringing a therapy dog in, because as soon as people saw him, they're like, oh shoot, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And
this dude's like an icon, action movie icon, man. I mean, I'm sure that was a huge morale boost to everybody that was there.
Yeah, it was one of the highlights of my incident management team experiences was hanging out with that guy for a little bit. And then my partner, he comes back in and he has a challenge coin that has, Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where the hell did you get that from? He's like, oh, he's giving out challenge coins, but you got to give him a challenge coin in order to get one.
No coin swap.
yeah, so I dug through my bag and I was able to come up with the coin. And he's just sitting in his truck, just in the Suburban, because it was kind of a campfire towards the end of it, or not even towards the end, towards the middle of it. The weather changed pretty quick, and it was like rainy. I mean, it was December.
Yeah.
Or it was November.
I think it was a tail end of November.
Yeah, it was November. And so I went out there and I said, hey, man, I heard you're giving out coins. He's like, yeah, but you got to give me a coin. And I'm like, hey, I came to this party to play. So gave him a coin, told him thanks a lot for coming out. It meant a lot to the folks on the line. He said, hey, I love what you guys do. I have a lot of respect for what you guys do. And it was a pretty cool experience. So
I think things like that are kind of important for explaining and gaining popularity for what we do. Because wildland fire, like everybody automatically assumes that you work for CalFire or you're a smoke jumper or something like that. So I think there's value behind it, like good PR. You know, it's making wildfire more mainstream, I guess you could say, because this problem isn't going anywhere. It's going to be there for the rest of human history, right? And it's the only natural disaster that humanity decided to pick a fight with. So I think that the more that people are informed and the more people that are aware of it, the better decisions that they can make. And, you know, like fire preparedness or whatever, you know, reducing fuel loading around your house, you know, defensible space, or, you know, highlighting the accomplishments of these men and women out there in the field. I think it's good.
Yeah. You know, public information is key. The more people that we can get educated in a way, just, you know, you look at the population, the way that California is growing, or not just California, but the world in general. Well, people, I mean, they want to have their own little, you know, piece of land. Well, they're going to start, or they're not going to start. They've been, you know, they spread out and you get in that whole intermix component now. Well, houses are just fuel for the fire. So if we can properly educate them on what to do to keep their home safe, you know, 30 feet, 100 feet, you know, removing ladder fuels, you know, not having a shake shingle roof, you know, just making your house a little bit more or a little bit less prone to catching on fire. You know, it's going to obviously protect their investment. It's going to help us to put the fire out because we're not having to deal with, you know, digging through rubble to find if there's any bodies in there or anything like that. Yeah, it's just education. That's all it is. Yeah. You know?
Oh, absolutely educational. That's the thing though, is like, that's the point I'm trying to make with the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. It's like everybody knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger is. Nobody knows really a wildland firefighter is, or like the whole thing behind wildfire, like all of the things that are related to it. No one knows about it. They just see smoke column and some folks disappear into the woods for, you know, however long it takes. And then they don't see it ever again. It kind of just, you just lose sight of it.
No, but Angelina Jolie just came out with a movie about firefighting, didn't she? I saw that trailer. I'm like, not even going to waste my time finishing this trailer.
It's not a bad movie, but there's some serious Hollywood stuff in there, man.
Come on, Brandon.
All right. It's not bad for the general public. How about that?
Oh, okay.
But when you're doing, you know, a halo jump with goggles on, it's some ESS. Oh, just the disconnect from like reality, you know, it's funny, man. I just think it's so funny.
Well, that's what there are going to be people that watch that movie and go, oh, that's what firefighters do. That's what wildland firefighters do.
Yeah. Well, you gotta glorify it in some degree, but like the reality of wildland firefighting is that it's like long periods of boredom and boring crap followed by like very short, intermittent, sheer terror and chaos.
Oh yeah. Like the video you posted yesterday up on Beckworth.
Oh yeah.
That was some scary footage. Yeah, dude.
I've seen some pretty interesting fire behavior back there, man. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think, you know how they get, they have reporters that will embed with troops. If we can do that a little bit more with wildland firefighting aspect, that probably will give a better picture to the folks that aren't involved in firefighting as to what it is that we deal with on on a day-to-day basis. And I think, overall that you just say the word firefighter, it comes with a certain amount of, respect, and honor in that profession. But, I don't think they fully understand, the day-to-day, the shift to shift on what it is. Like, talk about boredom, but if you're digging line all day long, just, 1 foot in the black, 1 foot in the green, just cutting, that's some hard ass work.
Oh yeah.
Without smoke, without heat, it's hard ass work. And I don't think people fully understand or comprehend what it is what that entails. But if we were to get some reporters in there, that might help a little bit.
Yeah, I think Vice News embedded with El Dorado, followed them around for a little while, but it doesn't paint the full picture. It's only a very small component of what goes on behind the scenes.
You know what movie the Prescott, the Granite Mountain Hotshot movie, what was that? Only the Brave. Was it Only the Brave?
Mm-hmm.
So this movie came out before my daughter's boyfriend got in the fire service, but I said it's a really good representation of the crew culture and the camaraderie and the cohesion of the crew. It's not necessarily that good because it was Hollywooded up. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the fire.
If you read McDonough's book, it was an accurate portrayal of his book and the actual incident, but the camaraderie and the cohesion and the brotherhood, I think it did a pretty good job of capturing.
Did an excellent job of capturing that.
And I think that's what that's what the fire service is about. That's what military is about. Is there's nothing breeds cohesion and camaraderie like struggle. And suffering. You suffer together. You go on a long, hard incident. You get your ass kicked day to day, and then you have it just brings people closer together. Yeah. And you always back. Years later, you go, "Wow, remember that fire? We did this and we did that." And it's always I know going back to my Forest Service days, how many times that we're in the middle of an incident going, "Man, when I get back, I'm getting off this crew. This fire sucks. I can't believe I do this job for this much money." And then invariably on your way back to when you get released, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to go to the next one. That fire was so awesome." It's just when you're in it kind of sucks, but if you have a good crew and you're enjoying each other's company, it gets you through it, and then you can't wait to get to the next one. So
100%, man. It's like you always bitch and complain about like being in the suck, right? When you're just wearing it and just hating life, right? You always bitch about it. But when you come off the line and you go home, you remember that as like one of the best times of your life.
Yep. And I'm telling you, 25 years later from my first season, I still feel that way. Like, yeah, it did suck. And it's hard ass work. And we called it the last legal sweatshop, because I don't know. I think I'm GS4s, I think, made like $9 an hour or something back then, which is crazy because they don't make that much more than that today, 25 years later.
Yeah, with inflation adjusted. Yeah, yeah. Might even be less.
But it was the last legal sweatshop. Like what they had us do for what they paid us was crazy. But I loved every second of it.
Yeah, the whole paid in sunsets kind of mentality, I guess you could say. But hopefully that'll change, man. I'd like to see those men and women out there, get the benefits that they deserve, particularly on the Fed side. But we'll see what happens, man.
Yep, for sure.
Right.
So, dude, this was fun, man.
Yeah, it was a good episode, man. And traditions, obviously, I'm a sucker for tradition. So at the end of the show, I always like to give you the opportunity to give a shout out to homies, heroes, mentors. Who do you got for us?
Oh, you know what? There's been a lot. I would say, start obviously with my parents, but a couple of names in the plans world. Ed McCorman, CalFire. He was my very first captain. He kind of got me going into the. I want to say I was young, 20, 21. He put me through this, like talking about the ICS quals. He put me through this check-in status recorder class. I'm like, why the fuck am I in this class? Like, I want to go fight fire. I don't want to do paperwork. I don't want to, and check-in status recorder is the lowest level in the plan section. So, fast forward 20 years, I'm a plan section chief. So I want to give a shout out to Ed McCormick because he kind of groomed me in the fire service and showed me what a firefighter, how we should act, how we should, portray ourselves and all that stuff. So that was good. Steve Beach, another plans guy, probably one of the smartest firefighters I've ever worked with. Can be an asshole sometimes. He knows it, but he's a great guy. Tim Chavez, widely recognized as one of the best, smartest fire behavior analysts in the entire country. I was fortunate enough to have him work in the plan section for the last 8 years. Guy was just a wealth of knowledge. I loved working with Tim. But I would say that, the person that made all of this possible was my wife. Been married for 22 years, been together for 28 or something like that. All she's known is fire. And without her support and her holding the fort down at home, I know when I leave for a fire, I don't have to worry about anything. She's definitely the rock of the family. So love you, Angela. Thanks for all the support over the years. But yeah, that's it.
Hell yeah, man. And it takes a special type of person to, put up with a fire lifestyle. So shout out to Angela. You said Angela, right?
Yep.
Angela. Yep. Hell yeah.
She told me she would keep it down while we were doing this, because she's always cooking or making something. That's why I work out so much, because all the food that she tries to
burn it off, man. Well, hell yeah, man. This is a good episode. And thanks for shining a little bit light on the planning section chief. That's a lesser known position. And a lot of people, they get sucked into ops and, pound and ground. But it's good to know and understand what's going on at like the top of that ICS structure and what goes on behind the scenes and what it takes. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, Chris. Well, we'll see you again, hopefully.
Yeah. And I'm an open book, dude. I'm usually pretty available. I'm not on Facebook, like I said, but Instagram, obviously you can hit me up on Instagram. I'll shoot you my phone number, send you a message with my phone number. And that way, if you have any like, oh, hey, I forgot to ask about this, or somebody was asking about that, then you can shoot me a text, and I'm pretty available. So
sounds good, man. And then for all the people that are listening, where can we find you?
Instagram, if you just see Burch 801, CBURCH 801. I'm private, but if you hit me up, if you're affiliated with the fire service or EMS or anything like that, I generally add you. But that's pretty much the only thing I'm on Instagram. If you want to send me an email, if you have any questions that weren't answered on the podcast, cburch801@gmail.com is my email address.
Right on, man. Well, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode in the books. Chris, once again, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon. All right, man. See ya.
Later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Another episode of the Anchor Point Podcast is in the books with my good friend, Chris Burch. Chris, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show and chit-chatting it up, man. I like these free-form conversations. And like I said, man, these conversations are totally unscripted, but you bring some subject matter expertise to the show. And I think a lot of people will get a better idea of what a planning section chief does on these IMTs, on these incident management teams. It's pretty cool, man. So once again, thank you for your knowledge, your expertise, and spreading the word, man. Appreciate it. With that being said, I hope everybody's doing well. And we are not even halfway through the season. I hope everybody is doing well, and I hope everybody stays safe. We just recently had an aviation accident on the Cedar Basin fire down in Region 3. So take the time to remember these folks, and those are our eyes in the skies. And I just want to extend my deepest condolences to the family of the two air attack personnel that were on that flight. So I hate to end this show on a more somber note, but that's the harsh reality that we face as wildland firefighters. So be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. Please be careful. Make it home. Special shout out to our sponsors. We got Mystery Ranch. They make the most kick-ass, most comfortable, most durable packs in the fire game, and they're helping support the story of wildland fire with their Backbone series and the Backbone series scholarship. So go over to www.mysteryranch.com and check them out. We got Hotshot Brewery. kick-ass coffee for a kick-ass cause. Go over to www.hotshotbrewing.com and get all of your essentials for getting your morning started off right. We got the ass movement. These guys are spreading the good word about burying your turds, and I certainly appreciate it because it's disgusting and it needs to stop. So if you want to incorporate yourself into the poo-bearing propaganda team, go over to www.thefirewild.com and check out the ass movement. And last but not least, we've got Bethany and the Smoky Generation, also known as the American Wildfire Experience, which isn't just in America anymore. It's all across the globe. It is awesome. It's an awesome storytelling platform, and they're helping support you folks on the ground, the boots on the ground that are telling the story of wildland fire with the scholarships that she's doing with the Smoky Generation scholarships. Stay safe, stay savage, peace.